Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you see this. This is Dee with Older INFP-A Assertive Insights. And today I'm going to be talking about the best spiritual-based communities for INFPs. And today we'll have a guest, and most of you who follow me know him as Vondelp, but he also has a second channel called The Peter Vonde, where he does go into more of different kinds of religion. And he's traveled the world and lived in Japan, so I thought I'd have him here to discuss that. So we're just going to bat around some ideas. So welcome, Pete.
Hi, good to be here. It's nice to be here again.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. Our yearly meeting, it seems like.
yeah, but it's great to be
Yeah.
here. I guess I should say straight away, yeah, if people don't know, if they know me from Vondel Pete, I also renamed my old YouTube channel to The Pete Von Day, which was my channel that I started 11 years ago when I moved to Japan. So it started off as a Japan
Mhm.
channel. And then over the years, I think because of my experiences in Japan with religion and how that, and I also grew up as a Roman Catholic, and I realize as I can sort of waffle on and talk about that topic as well. So at the moment, I don't know what the channel is, but I did a lot of videos on religion because it's an interesting topic to me. And I'm not sure where the channel is going to go from there, but it's filled with loose, disconnected ideas, and it's a place where I can. I think there's something funny about talking off the cuff without any preparation, which is something I'm often doing, but editing it together to try and see if there's any coherent narrative, and there usually isn't. But that's basically what this channel that I'm doing now, as well as Bondle Pete, the Pete
Yeah,
one day.
and it does very well. So what caught me to doing this is that Peter and I were just talking before I started recording, that recently, I think this year is going to be a transformation year for me personally. And this year, I've noticed that I have wanted to be around a faith-based or spiritual-based group, a community, in person. And I think with everything that's going on, I think it's good that we get out in person. And I'm trying to, figure out exactly what is for me. And I thought, well, maybe some other people are thinking the same thing. If you have ideas what works for you as an INFP, put it in the comments below, the pros and cons. Um, it's interesting. Before we started, I was going to say title this faith-based communities, and Pete said that sounded religious, and he said spirituality, and I said that sounded religious to me. So that's just what it is. And another thing, just a little background real quick, is that both of us are INFP four-wing fives. So I think that has something to do with it. And I just learned recently, I had thought that all INFPs love philosophy and were philosophers slash theologians type thing and seekers. And I just learned reading comments or somebody else's video back a month or two ago that that's not the case. A lot of INFPs do not think that abstractly. So, so yeah, both of us are seekers. And he left the Catholic Church, which I perceive as being more strict and has more rituals, I'll say. And I grew up in a branch offshoot of the UCC, United Church of Christ, which is a liberal progressive Christian thing that I left. So you left something traditional, I left something progressive.
That's
And
interesting.
we were just talking beforehand about being agnostic. I'm not, but I was most of my life. So yeah, that's where we are and where we're coming from. And we love talking about these things. So
Yeah.
do you have any ideas, Pete? Because you have traveled, you've lived in Japan, and you have gone to see the myth or whatever it is, mythology about Jesus burial ground in Japan and all of this. It's a very interesting channel. Go see it. Not now, after this.
Yeah.
I'll have the link to, but I'll tag him below. But yeah, you've been everywhere in the northern hemisphere, I think.
Well,
Every
oh,
continent,
yeah.
I
The
think.
northern,
And you
yeah,
live in the southern, but you have right, because you're upside down. I
that's
call it
right. I
upside
am.
down.
Even the gravity here is all going up.
You're upside down.
Yeah.
So yeah, in all your travels, do you have any ideas what might suit what religion we talk religion or spiritual um that has a community? Not all of them have communities.
Yeah. I think that, I guess just to talk about, yeah, so I grew up as a Catholic because my dad was Catholic and he's from Sri Lanka. And here in Melbourne in Australia, I went to a Catholic high school as well, and a lot of my friends were Catholic. Sometimes that meant it was very multicultural. Um, and I remember one interesting thing was that I started going to a Church of England boys' society. I remember when I was 12 because a Catholic friend of mine started dabbling in Anglicanism, which there was something very funny to me about that because they're so similar in some ways. But there was much more, the youth group was much more community based with the Anglicans. So I remember tagging along and having a good time in a way that with the growing up as Catholic, even though it's this big organization, and I went to the youth groups and all of that, it was just so big that even though I felt a part of it, you didn't get any of that real warmth or anything. It felt like being at school kind of. And I guess maybe at that young age, I was starting to wonder why I didn't feel like, what's the point in going to church every Sunday? I thought when nobody smiles or talks to me. And it was that right up until I was 19. And I just couldn't believe that I was going to church every Sunday and I didn't really feel part of anything. And my parents got divorced, just as a sidetrack, and my dad was the Catholic one. So my mum just sort of stopped being Catholic once they broke up. And I was living with my mum when my parents divorced. So they were sort of anti-religious immediately. And then my mum and her boyfriend. And then my dad he got more religious after the divorce. So I was already 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Um, and so that started this whole thing. And I guess by the time I was 19, I thought it was that feeling I could leave the Catholic Church. It's not like anyone noticed. That's how it felt. So maybe that's a bit of an explanation about some early issues I had with religion. Um, and that was it really through my 20s. Almost every one of my Catholic friends, almost all of them stopped going to church, which was interesting too. And I just think Catholicism
Do
is
you think
really,
that was because, for what I'm hearing you say, that you felt like nobody cared if you were there or not?
yeah, and I think that was the same with most people. And just to be a lapsed Catholic, as I call myself, I
Right.
think is its own group. I think that you're still so influenced. If you grew up as a child and you went to church, you're taken in all this
Right.
religion, and then they all just stop going around, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then but you're still a Catholic in some sense, I think. You've been influenced from everything, even if you say you don't believe in God anymore and you don't go to church. And a lot of people became very anti-Catholic who grew up as Catholic as well. But I find there's something funny in that idea that you can't actually divorce yourself completely from that experience. Some still going to influence you in some way. So, and I guess the reason I then bring up moving to Japan, which again, it's not a super religious country in Japan. I think when they do surveys in Japan, I don't know the numbers, but it's a high rates of atheism, high rates of not believing in God, and high rates of attending church,
Mm.
high rates of attending temple. They do both. And they're both, and Japanese, in Japan, you're part of two major religions. And it blew my mind that there's no conflict, at least these days, between Shinto and Buddhism. So you get to
Yeah.
be a pagan or animist religion, and you also get to be part of this huge religion of Buddhism, and they do both at the same time. And I thought that was very interesting, given
Oh,
how
yeah.
I've grown up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that part is interesting. I know Buddhism, for one thing, I think has grown. It's in the Western world. I think it's a religion that has grown. I know over here in the States, and I think that probably, in a lot of ways, with the teachings and whatnot, in a lot of ways, that would appeal to INFPs. Um,
Yeah.
but then there's the thing about, as you say, depending on how you're brought up, then it's the Buddhism is considered in some places to be paganism and all like that. And I'm not going to get into all that just that discussion that deeply, but yeah. And you're talking about, but with being Catholic though, you're talking about you didn't feel like people knew you were there. Um, I know when I go to some churches around here, um, I have been to all different types, and they're, even when they say non-denominational, that's just Christian. Even if it's not Christian, like overly Christ-based, it's going to be Christian. Um, and but what they do here is they have, like, during the service at the very beginning, everybody has to say hello to each other, and some hug each other, and some hug everybody. I know as INFP, I hate those churches. I might like the people, but I'd rather be somewhere where I'm not noticed, you know,
Yeah.
as an
Yes.
INFP, when they say, okay, we're going to stand now, we're going to say a prayer, and then we're going to greet our neighbors. And I'm like, no, no.
No. I guess I can relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. And yeah, so I guess, and as we were saying, what are there any spiritual organizations or groups or religions or anything that might suit that INFP temperament where you get to have your own space and not feel
Right.
smothered by the FE, by the all of that stuff maybe, and then but also you want something authentic and you want to be an individual, but then by being part of a group or already part of a system. So how do you do all of
Right.
that, I guess? Yeah.
I think I've been thinking about this a lot in the past week, because I knew we were doing this. And I thought, well, what am I going to say and what? And but I think just in general, I've about decided that it doesn't matter what religion it is, the religion part, or group that it is, as long as it fits with your values and you enjoy the people. Like you
Yeah.
said, you go if you enjoy the people. Um, More so than, I mean, I can feel comfortable in the Southern Baptist Church. I can feel comfortable in synagogue. I can feel comfortable. And I've been to a lot of different types. And here recently, it popped into my brain to convert to Judaism. I have no idea why that popped in my brain, but
I've had that thought too.
yeah. But I will tell you, this handful of Jewish people that I've known in my life, and one is my daughter's best friend from high school, and now she's in her 50s, converted to Judaism as an adult. They're a lot of fun. I
Wow.
mean, they're kind of like one of my bosses who had a very grumpy disposition. I was trying to be politically correct and trying to use my FE a little bit. And I told
Yeah.
her happy Hanukkah, and she looked insulted. And she said, doesn't mean anything. She said, they tried to kill us, they failed, let's eat.
Oh, wow.
So I'm just
Amazing.
like, and then she walked away, and I'm like, okay. It's still kind of funny. That was like 20 years ago, and I remember those kinds of things.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah, I mean, actually, my early experience, because I grew up in a part of Melbourne here in Australia, which has got I think it's got a very strong Orthodox Jewish community.
Okay.
I had a lot of Jewish friends growing up because the area I was in, and a lot of them were coming from Eastern Europe, and yeah, so early experiences, I was at synagogues and bar mitzvahs, and I got more of a sense again of
right.
being treated as I think they all thought I was Jewish, but I was happy to pretend, and there was another. I was like, at least I'm getting that, yeah, benefit. I thought of feeling part of something a bit more, yeah, like a family or getting that treatment.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's important, just to find a group of people and test it out. I would say, a lot of INFPs just like to stay home and they don't like to get out. Just test it
yeah.
out, show up, be a Baptist. I'm Southern, so I can just say this. Be a Southern Baptist, sit on the back row. That's just a joke. Southern Baptists sit on
Okay.
the back row because they can leave early. And I do that. Just sit in the back row, just slide in and slide out when you want to, and just see what it's about. For me too, I like what I'm looking for, and kind of having a hard time finding it here in my location. To the point, is something that's, I would say, advocacy, and advocacy don't mean too strong a thing, but that have programs, that have activities and programs. They go out and maybe feed people or visit nursing homes, or I mean, you don't just give in the collection and then they send it to Africa to feed the starving children. That's how I grew up. You put your money in the plate and it goes somewhere else, and that's all you do.
We
And
same with
yeah,
us, yeah.
and then you for an hour a week, you are who you are, and the rest of the time they go out and philander and drink and whatever they want to do. Yeah, something that they have a cause, whatever the
Yeah,
cause
yeah.
is. It seems like where I live, the cause, there is a church I went to for several years. Um, and it was a UCC church. I mean, it still is, but they are very political. Here, if you get advocacy type things, they get into the very political. And I don't want to get arrested. I thought about doing that though. That's an aside. I thought about,
Yeah,
I'm going to go get arrested. I've got bail money.
that's true.
And just go protest something, I'm going to get arrested. But I mean, they do. They literally go down to the state legislature and they've been arrested. And I'm not into that type of thing. So it's kind of hard.
Yeah,
If anybody knows, drop in the comments below where I could go. I
yeah,
always enjoy going to, and I did mention this comment on your channel. And it's the truth. It's a joke, but a truth. I always enjoy for I don't know why, the Episcopal Church. Um,
yeah.
I do feel at home in the Episcopal Church. I like the service because having ADHD, and they have two different books. I don't know what they are. I didn't learn it that much. I used to go to the service, and part of the time you stand up, sit down, kneel. You're in one book, you're in the other book, and they know what to do, and I don't. So I would test myself to see if I could get through the service doing the right thing. But I did enjoy the people at one church
Mhm.
I went to, and I learned, and I did tell you that they call themselves, I don't know if it's universal or not, but I know here in the North Carolina mountains, Episcopalians call themselves the Whiskey Palians.
That's right.
The Whiskey
Yeah.
Palians, they're the
I think
failed
it's
Catholics, they say, and they laugh about it. So
yeah.
that's all that go on for there. So
I'd love to join that. But
yeah.
but yeah, and that's the thing. And I guess we should also say, like, I think, well, maybe if a lot of INFPs stay, the stereotype is staying home alone and avoiding a lot of social situations. Not that it's necessarily true, but I think there's a huge issue in especially a lot of Western countries and even non-Western countries of loneliness and disconnection. And I guess that's my main thing I'm often thinking about, where I'm not really religious sometimes, but I kind of wish I was. And one
Mhm.
of the reasons I've even like popped into the cathedral, beautiful cathedrals here in Melbourne, and and through a series of different Japanese girlfriends I've had, some INFP, some not INFP.
Yes.
Often I would just like show off all these churches when, if they're living here. just like if I was over in Japan, that Japanese friends would show me off temples and so on. And that's how I started being more interested in Catholic churches, is trying to show Japanese people how they look, because they appreciate these things. Anytime you go to these cathedrals here in Melbourne, you've got the
Right.
lots of tourists, and they're just appreciating it for how it looks and the feel and whatever else. But my point, I guess, just to try and focus is, yeah, how do you replace that feeling of togetherness and shared ideas? Because we're human, and I think things are so fractured, especially because of the internet, but not only that. And that's the void, right? That has to be filled to some degree, I think, for all humans, some sort of shared belief.
Mhm.
I
Well,
think
that
can be
is a
helpful.
good, Zoom is telling me we've about finished
Right.
already. That was a quick half an hour,
Yeah.
40 minutes, but yeah, I appreciate that. So that would be a good ending, is repeat that real quick, that what you said
Yeah.
about getting out.
Yeah. Just the importance, unfortunately, unfortunately, mentally, we're in an era where there is such a decline in religion, and but we do need the social aspect and the shared beliefs that you get
Mhm.
from socializing, and that's what religion often has filled. Even in a vague sense, there was just some sort of shared values that I think can be very calming and very healthy, to feel that you're in a community of some sort of shared belief. And a lot of people will say you don't need organized religions for that, and I guess you don't. But I think it's worth just always being aware of um, how, when you don't have more structured shared beliefs, as long as it's flexible, it is at least good. Like, I guess, like I'm trying to do, I dabble without so far committing, but I think that's okay. I think just being open
You see,
is
yeah, exactly. Be open and explore. And if you're looking, and if you're not looking, that's fine. If you're satisfied with where you are, that's
mm,
fine. And everybody does their own thing. So with
yeah,
that, I think they're getting ready to shut me off here. So
right.
appreciate you coming on, Peter, again. And again, that's is it the Peter Vonde or the Pete Vonde? Peter, isn't it?
The Pete. Oh, I don't know. You try both.
I wrote it down. It's the Peter Vonde, and I'll have
I
a
think it's the Peter Von Day. It might be Peter Von. I don't even know my own channel. The Pete Von Day. I'll change it tomorrow. So, but yeah, the Pete Von Day.
yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
everybody, until next time, stay safe.